welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Reese, and today I'm going to be bringing you commentary from the Formula One qualifying in Austria. It was a brilliant sprint race that we had here this afternoon, and now we're getting ready for qualifying to get underway. Max Verstappen has left the grid box already and is going on his warm-up lap now. We should get some very, very close times in this session here today. Sprint qualifying yesterday was so close between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. 0.095 seconds splitting those two drivers around this 1 minute track. It is such a quick circuit around here in Austria. Of course, this being the Red Bull Ring, Red Bull's home circuit that they own as a Red Bull, or as a company. They own the circuit out in the Styrian Alps. It is a beautiful setting to go racing, and we are really looking forward to the race tomorrow afternoon after what we saw today in the sprint. Some great racing between Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri there in the first 4 laps of that sprint race. Unfortunately, it did just run into the normality after that, as we see Max Verstappen now starting his first push lap. Let's see what times he's going to be able to put in here. Coming through the first corner, up the hill into turn 1. Keeping it very, very neatly over the curb. Now just getting a little bit of a slipstream from one of the McLarens. I think that's Piastri, who starts his formation lap or warm-up lap. Verstappen purple in the first sector. The first driver to put out a sector time. Coming through the second sector now as well. Purple through there. I see Perez has stolen his first sector though now. Verstappen going a little bit wide into turn 4. That moment in the sprint race where he was able to steal that position back from Lando Norris. Verstappen, though, fastest in the middle sector. Perez fastest in the first sector. Verstappen finishes up his lap now with a 1 minute and 6 seconds, 0.054 on those soft tyres. We'd expect him to be a little bit faster than that. Yesterday in sprint qualifying, the fastest lap time was a 1 minute and 4 seconds, if I remember correctly, set on their soft tyres. Perez now coming to finish up his lap. Will he be faster than his teammate? No, he's not. 106.2 as Sainz now steals away that fastest first sector. Gasly now next to cross the line. Where will he put his Alpine? He goes into third. Sainz, Leclerc and Norris all coming around the circuit now as well. Alonso puts himself up into third now with Gasly behind him and Stroll behind them. Stroll with a 107.0, Gasly with a 106.8. Now Ocon moves himself up into third ahead of Alonso. Albon now as well with a 106.3. Sainz now coming through the final sector. He crosses the finish line, finishes himself up on in number 1 spot with a 105.941. Brilliant lap time from Carlos Sainz, finding some pace out here. Norris now approaching the start-finish line. He puts his McLaren in second place with a 105.9, 0.009 behind Charles Leclerc. Some really close margins still here between drivers. With 13 minutes now still remaining of this Q1 session. Tsunoda across the line, 0.028 behind Charles Leclerc's time. Very, very close between some of those top drivers. Tsunoda finds some brilliant pace out here today, getting ahead of those Red Bulls who've now dived back into the pits after their first hot laps. Possibly a much higher fuel run for the Red Bulls. Maybe just checking some setup changes that they might want to run. Of course, it is qualifying. Once you have got your setup, you're not allowed to change it, but you can make small changes on your wings. As Magnussen moves himself up to 7th, Bottas crosses the line for 13th place. Zhou Guanyu steals that away from his teammates. as we're watching Zhou Guanyu come back up the hill to stop his lap. So we now have 12 minutes and 36 seconds remaining of the session. Who will top it at the end, though? Lewis Hamilton on his outlap at the moment alongside George Russell. What can the two Mercedes do? They seem to also have some great pace around here this weekend. Seem to be a little bit slower than the likes of the Red Bulls and the McLarens, but maybe they can find a little bit now in this session and just improve for the race tomorrow. Lando Norris, though, still in second place, 0.009 behind Charles Leclerc's lap time. Oscar Piastri in third, 0.017. So very closely matched to his teammate. Then the bit of a shocker is Yuki Tsunoda having found a handful of time compared to his sprint qualifying that he had yesterday. 0.028 down on Charles Leclerc's time. Carlos Sainz then 0.040 down on Leclerc's time. These drivers just so closely matched around this really short circuit. It might be a very short circuit, but it provides some great overtaking opportunities, and it is very tricky with a lot of uphill braking, a lot of off-camber braking, the likes of turn 4 come to mind, where we have some brilliant overtakes, but some really tricky braking sectors where we've seen people have bad lockups. But we're now watching George Russell start his hot lap, as has Lewis Hamilton. Russell fastest overall in the first sector now. Hamilton getting close to the gravel. 0.3 down on Sargent, the driver who he needs to be able to get out of that elimination zone. Currently sitting in that elimination zone is Alonso, Gasly, Stroll, Hamilton, and Russell. But we should see a bunch of them jumping out of there relatively soon now, as Russell crosses the line, or Hamilton crosses the line. He goes up to 6th. Russell next across the line. He goes up to 1st with a 105.9, well, 105.614. Quite a bit faster than Leclerc's lap time, but the track is evolving as more rubber is getting put down by these drivers on their quali runs. Quite a bit of smoke coming off the back of Hamilton's car as he's bottoming out, going down the hill towards the start-finish straight. Possibly just with a lower running height than we saw throughout the rest of the race weekend. As we're seeing Peter Boddington, the Mercedes race engineer, looking quite concerned over the fact that that car was sparking quite a bit and bottoming out. Max Verstappen now doing another quali run. Fastest in the first sector, but that immediately gets taken away by Carlos Sainz. Through the middle sector now, down turn 6. Another really tricky braking sector. 0.1 up on Russell's time in the middle sector now. What can Carlos Sainz do in retaliation? Max quite likes the second and third sector, whereas the others seem to enjoy the first sector more. Max Verstappen just pulls out. Finishing up his lap now. Does he go first? Yes, he does. 0.2 faster than Russell. But Carlos Sainz, fastest in the first and fastest in the second sector. Perez now crosses the line. He moves up to 3rd. But where will Carlos Sainz put his Ferrari? He now comes down the hill, across the line, and into first place. 0.073 faster than Verstappen. Still, such fine margins splitting these drivers in Austria. Russell in the pits at the moment with 8 minutes and 20 seconds left of the session. As the Ferraris have new tyres on now. Verstappen put his lap time in on used tyres, so still no brand new sets for Max Verstappen. Alonso now goes across the line. He improves up to 6th place with a 105.8. Much better lap time from the Aston Martin. Esteban Ocon now getting a great slipstream from Yuki Tsunoda. Puts himself up into 6th place 105.661 being his time. Lance Stroll now, the next driver across the line. He only goes 13th, not as good as his teammates up in 6th place. Daniel Ricciardo now, the driver at risk in 15th. His lap time is a 106.2. Ricciardo comes across the line and improves from 16th to 7th place. Much better lap time from him on a new set of tyres. As Albon also improves up into 8th position. Now, Logan Sargent also improves, but not good enough, only for 17th place now. As Yuki Tsunoda in 13th tries to improve on his lap time, he moves up, or Magnussen moves up to 9th place with a 105.8. Tsunoda also improves on his lap time, slow in the final sector, but enough to improve to 8th place behind his teammates, 0.462 down on the leader of Carlos Sainz. As Piastri puts in the blistering lap of a 105.3, good enough for 2nd place now, still just nothing away from Carlos Sainz's lap time, 0.048 seconds. Max Verstappen 0.073 down on that lap time from Carlos Sainz. As Norris now is finishing up his lap, fastest first sector, personal best middle sector. Where will he put himself? Crosses the line, only good enough for 4th. 105.450 for Lando Norris. Hamilton in the pits, Stroll in the pits, as is Hülkenberg. Those 3 drivers all at risk right now with 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining of the session. George Russell also smoking away. It looks like there's a lot of smoke coming out of this front left brake, just really streaming all the way down the side of the car is the smoke there, showing how the aero works on these challenges in 2024. Be sure to let us know in the comment section who you are supporting for the race here this weekend, who you are backing to get the top spot in qualifying, as well as be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We're getting close to 7,000 subs on this motorsports channel. Yuki Tsunoda now currently being wheeled back into the pits. 4 minutes and 50 seconds left of the session. Just enough time now to get on a fresh set of tyres and get back out onto circuit to get one final run of Q1. Logan Sargent still in his favorite position in Formula One near the end of the grid. Lando Norris on the radio being told, Lando, we need to do another one. Please, we need to do another one. So they do not feel that they are safe at the moment. 0.1 is his gap to the leader's lap time right now. So the McLarens just feel that there is way too much more to come out of the rest of the grid, that they feel they need to go and put in another lap time to be safe for the next session. So he does go back out onto the circuit to put in a final lap for Q1. 4 minutes remaining of the session now. I think one of the drivers may have gotten in the way of Daniel Ricciardo in the pits, as I see he's just complaining a little bit on the radio. He's currently putting a good qualifying time, 0.4 down on Carlos Sainz's #1 spot right now, but still good enough for 9th place. That is what we want to see from these V-Carbs, being able to find a little bit more pace, pulling themselves out of the midfield and fighting a little bit more. It would be quite interesting. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo is 2 places back from Sergio Perez. Could we get a bit of fighting between the V-Carbs and a Red Bull this weekend? Looking at Carlos Sainz now, the fastest driver overall in this session with a 105.263. We're not far off of where we left off in sprint qualifying yesterday afternoon. As we're watching another very expensive traffic jam leaving the pits right now. We've got 2 Aston Martins, a Williams leaving, as well as a Alfa Romeo getting ready to go out on circuit, or a Sauber rather, should I say. Hamilton now ramps up to start a hot lap, crossing the start-finish line. And now starting his run up towards turn 1, the really tricky braking point up the hill. Quick right-hander, pretty much 90 degrees to your right. Then you've got the long run once again uphill towards turn 4. Or turn 3 rather. 0.04 seconds off of Tsunoda's first sector time. Looking at the track dominance between Russell and Hamilton. Hamilton only faster in 3 corners through turn 3, 9, and 10. Russell faster everywhere else on circuit this weekend. Hamilton's still not happy with the fundamental design of the 2024 car, or just in general, the new regulation car for Mercedes. He has not been as happy with it since the introduction of the new regulations. Hamilton, though, 0.3 up on Tsunoda's sector time in the middle sector. Gasly improves up into 6th place now. Hamilton now coming down the hill towards the start-finish line through turn 10, threading the needle through there. Such a difficult corner where you pretty much just freewheel the car through there, but good enough for 6th place. 0.2 down on Carlos Sainz's time as Russell goes behind his teammate with a 105.3. Hulkenberg goes to 9th place now, as Ocon has improved to 7th. Magnussen crosses the line now, brilliant lap time for himself. He improves all the way up into 5th. So certainly the McLarens were right that they were to be nervous with Lando Norris not putting in another fast lap. As Daniel Ricciardo has another blistering lap, good enough for 8th place. 0.3 down on Carlos Sainz's lap time. Where will Tsunoda put himself? He's now threading the needle through turn 10. Holding on to it, very close to the gravel, crosses the line, and he's good enough for 8th place, just ahead of his teammate. Brilliant from the 2 V-Carb drivers, split by just 0.006 seconds. Very, very well matched are the 2 V-Carb drivers, as Alex Albon now trying to get out of this session as the clock has come to an end, and he remains the driver at risk, improves his time, not his position though. Alonso is next to come across the line, as is Stroll. The Canadian driver coming through the final 2 corners of the circuit. DRS open, cross the line. Will he be able to improve? No, he doesn't. Only 16th, not able to get out of the bottom. Will Alonso be able to get out of those drivers at risk? Yes, he does. He now improves ahead of Albon. He's up into 15th. Perez, one of the drivers that could have been at risk, still down in 14th place now. Threads the needle through turn 10. Opens up his DRS, approaching the start-finish line now, and improves to 12th. Still not good enough for the second driver in that Red Bull car. You would expect them to at least be within the top 5 or anywhere near Max Verstappen right now. Logan Sargent saying, "What's up with Perez?" on the radio there. And now Sergio Perez saying that he's relatively happy that he's out of the bottom 5. Still very, very frustrated with the fact that we have a second driver in that Red Bull that is so far off of Max Verstappen. Alonso will be relatively happy that he was able to get out of that bottom 5. His teammate not so lucky today. So the drivers out in Q1 are Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, Logan Sargent, and Zhou Guanyu, who will be starting in 20th position for the race tomorrow afternoon. Albon comes onto the radio, saying, "We did a really good job with the car, but we just don't have the pace, unfortunately." He's happy with the balance, but they're just struggling with the general pace, unfortunately. And when you have margins that are just so close this weekend, it's going to be difficult. The fastest lap time of that session, a 1:05.263, set by Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri in second, and Verstappen in third with a 1:05.336. So close between first, second, and third. But the lap time from first is a 1:05.263. The lap time in 20th was a 1:06.061. So under a second between first place and 20th place in terms of the lap times that they are able to put out on this circuit. It is a very, very short circuit, so that should be why they are close, but still incredible that these cars, coming from multiple different manufacturers, being able to put in a lap time around a circuit that is within a second of each other. Russell and Verstappen, I'm hearing, did not use any new tyres at all in this session. Very, very interesting. As we're watching a replay of Sergio Perez going a little bit wide into turn 9. Could this be a bit of a look at track limits even? No, just showing how aggressive the curbs are once you get wider out. Just looking at some aerial views now of the spectacular circuit set in the Styrian Alps. The pit lane incident involving Hülkenberg will be investigated after the session, which is failing to follow the race director's instructions. And the FIA stewards have also said the Q1 incident involving Tsunoda, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Perez, Sargent, Ocon will be investigated after the session for failing to follow the race director's instructions for maximum delta time. So quite a bit being looked into after this session. Hopefully no penalties coming people's ways, but if they have done something terribly wrong, they could be looking at a grid drop for tomorrow afternoon's race. Nico Hülkenberg into Q2, as is Alonso, just by the skin of its teeth. Just under 0.8 of a second from first to last is what I'm hearing for that Q1 session. Brilliant that we have so many constructors so close to each other. So we're looking at that incident that happened in the pits where Hülkenberg was just holding people up a little bit. As we're hearing the animated fans out here in Austria. I'm seeing some clips on social media just showing the lines of people walking into the circuit here. And it is incredible that the just turnout of Formula One fans in Austria this weekend. Of course, at any circuit around the world, we have an incredible amount of Formula One fans. Just waiting now for this next session to get underway. As we're watching over the Orange Army taking over the stands here in Austria, a lot of them making the pilgrimage out from the Netherlands all the way to Austria to watch their number one driver go out on circuit once again. They've watched him win one race this weekend. They're going to be hoping to watch him win another one. Afternoon, Old Man Roo. Yes, today I'm not coming to you from my normal studio, so just coming to you on the comms today. TC saying Williams have not been strong this season so far. Yes, they decided to go for a different design this year in terms of their car fundamental, the way that it drives fundamentally. Last season and the season before, they had a really good car in top speed. This year, they've decided to try and focus on all-rounded pace, so they want to be able to go quick in the corners, in the straights, and everywhere else. And it doesn't seem to be working as well, but they hopefully will be making steps forward. They're purchasing engineers like crazy at the moment from Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, Aston Martin, all over the show. They are acquiring new blood for their team. So that should be a good push in that Williams garage for more pace. So hopefully we should see something in the future. And that is possibly why we're hearing so much about Carlos Sainz looking heavily into signing into that team for the future, because they are investing so heavily to get that team back into its winning ways. There's also been a little bit of chattering about Adrian Newey possibly looking at going to Williams after Red Bull, but we'll have to wait and see what he decides to do. There's also, of course, been chattering about him going for a tour of the Aston Martin factory in the last 2 weeks between races. So a lot of talk happening in the pit lane, but we're waiting for the first hot laps of this Q2 session now. We have a couple of drivers out on circuit just warming their new soft tires up. Watching now with Carlos Sainz warming up his tires. Charles Leclerc and Sainz being told that the wind direction has stayed the same for this session, so they shouldn't have to worry about that catching them out anyway, as we're now watching Sainz start his first hot lap. Coming up the hill, braking at 50 meters. Brilliant rotation through turn 1. Now approaching the uphill again of turn 2. Heavy braking zone again. Turn 3 now. Fastest in that first sector. 200 kilometers now as he opens up the DRS. 300 as he approaches that braking zone. 320 before he slams down to slow down to 100 kilometers an hour for the turn. Really difficult turn 5, where we saw Verstappen get that move done on Lando Norris to steal back first. Turn 7 now, one of my favorite sectors, where you pretty much go off the circuit to go through that corner, and then 300 kilometers an hour before you go down the hill. 250 down the hill, now into 9 and 10, approaching the start-finish line, crosses the line with a 105.74. Just looking so comfortable out on circuit. Leclerc, 105.532 now, as Ocon and Gasly have gone faster than Carlos Sainz's lap time. Ferraris, though, on a set of used tyres in the session. Max Verstappen, though, our reigning world champion, goes out on his first set of brand new tyres. A lot more drivers now heading out onto circuit, as are the two McLarens. As we see now, an expensive traffic jam once again in the pit lane. Carlos Sainz onto the radio saying, I picked up a lot of bouncing on that lap. Interesting for him there. As we're seeing as well now, Fernando Alonso leaving the pits. Those drivers having put on those used softs have already come back into the pits after setting their first hot laps of this Q2 session. Verstappen now coming through the third and final sector of the circuit on his warm-up lap. Now coming down the hill to start his hot lap now of Q2. What will Verstappen be able to do? DRS now open with 10 minutes left to go of this session. Very, very neat through turn 1. Brilliant rotation. Clean run up the hill to turn 2 and 3. 0.2 up on Leclerc's first sector time. Brilliant rotation once again through turn 3. DRS open again as you come ever so slightly down the hill. Now turn 5. Right-handed down the hill, slightly wide on the apex, just missing that optimal line. Ever so slightly touching the gravel. Half a second now up on Leclerc's fastest time. Just finding amazing amounts of pace on these new soft tyres. Now down the hill, 2 corners to go. Rumbling over the curbs there. Now through turn 10, beautifully through there, DRS open. He crosses the line and goes fastest with a 104.577. Almost a full second faster than Charles Leclerc's lap time. What can Hamilton do now? He will be the next driver across the line, chasing down Max Verstappen. Tsunoda crosses with a 105.4. Now watching with Hamilton. Hamilton goes second with a 105.244 now. Ricciardo approaching the start-finish line. Where can he go? As we're also watching Russell, he goes second with a 105.068. Ricciardo flying down the final couple of corners. He puts himself into 4th. Very good lap time from Danny Rick. Lando Norris threading the needle as well, as is Piastri. Crosses the line to finish up his lap, and Piastri goes 3rd with a 105.0 as well. All on new tyres, but not able to match Verstappen. Norris now, the next one to cross the line. He went slightly wide in the final corner. Waiting for Perez now as well to finish his lap time, taking handfuls and multiple stabs at the steering wheel as he comes through turn 9 and down into 10. Cross the line, only good enough for 5th place with a 105.192. 0.6 seconds down on his teammates in that exact same car. Race control noting Hülkenberg's incident. As Magnussen comes across the line now, he puts himself up into 11th place, but only 11th, which puts him in that elimination zone. Leclerc also moves himself up into 11th with the exact same time as Magnussen. Carlos Sainz now finishing up a lap for himself. Leclerc starting a new lap. Sainz coming through the final 2 corners now. What can he do for himself and Ferrari? Can he get ahead of Russell? Yes, he can, with a 105.016, but still 0.4 down on Verstappen's fastest time. Verstappen clearly having got his tyres into the perfect window when it was needed. Leclerc now next to come across the line. Where will he go? Up into 6th place. Not able to match what his teammate is on at the moment. Lots of drivers now into the box ahead of their final quali runs in Q2. The entire grid is split by tiny margins at the moment, except for the gap from Verstappen to the rest of them, which is quite a large one. Just looking at a moment that Fernando Alonso had, just hanging it out to dry and a little bit wide, maybe almost losing the car, almost losing the rear end into turn 7. and then repeating that he nearly crashed into 10 as well, just watching what happened there. 10 looked clean for me, but yeah, just really struggling in his Aston Martin today. It is a circuit where Fernando Alonso has never done well in a traditional Grand Prix format. Verstappen, though, sitting very comfortably in his car right now. I don't think he needs to go and do another run for this session as his teammate Sergio Perez gets prepped to get sent out again. Tyre covers come off. Another set of brand new softs for Sergio Perez. Just looking at what happened for him in Quali 2, where the Haas got ahead of him. Perez saying he didn't let me by and getting told he doesn't follow the regulations. So Hulkenberg might be getting investigated for that after the session. So looking at our drivers currently in the elimination zone, we've got Gasly, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, and Alonso here, all split by tiny, tiny margins. So it could really come down to your final run here. 3 minutes left now, enough time to get yourself on a warm-up lap and then your push lap. As we're watching Lando warming up his tyres right now. Verstappen is on his outlap as well. Ricciardo seemingly enjoying his weekend out here in Austria at the moment, finding some good pace over his teammates. Hopefully he will be able to hold on to that here. Currently sitting in 10th with being the driver at risk in that dropout zone. One minute and 50 left of the session now as Ocon climbs the hill towards turn 2. As he sets his personal best first sector, we're waiting for multiple other drivers to start their final push laps. Waiting for Verstappen to start his final push lap now. Leclerc being told they've still got a 20-second margin on when they will start their final hot lap to the end of the session. Ocon coming down the hill now towards the start finish line through turn 10. Picking up lots of dust. Crosses the line, improves on his lap time, but not improving on his position to Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton now coming through the final 2 corners through turn 10. Straightens his steering wheel up, opens the DRS, and crosses the line up into 3rd place with 105.053. As Hulkenberg now coming to finish his lap time, he moves himself out of the drivers at risk up into P9. Magnussen, what can he do next in the other Haas? Can Magnussen get into the top 10 as Verstappen goes even faster out on circuit? Magnussen so close to Ocon's time, but not good enough as he only finishes in 12th place with a 105.347. We're watching Alonso now. Will he get himself out of the bottom relegation zone? Opens up his DRS. He's currently in 15th. Not able to improve on his lap time. Disappointing for the Aston Martin drivers. Daniel Ricciardo not able to improve out of his position. Improves his time, but is dropped out from Q2 by 15 thousandths of a second to Esteban Ocon. Gasly improves his lap time as well, but not good enough to get out of that bottom 5. So the drivers dropped out from this session are Ricciardo, Gasly, Magnussen, Tsunoda, and Alonso. Verstappen, though, with the fastest lap time overall, a 104.469. A brilliant lap time from Max Verstappen, half a second faster than anyone else around the circuit. Russell and Hamilton setting such close lap times. Sainz and Russell setting the exact same lap time out here in the final runs of Q2. So now we wait for the final qualifying session here this afternoon, as we watch Pierre Gasly taking a run into the gravel. That would have slowed him down quite a bit. And just for a stab in the back as well, he gets that lap time deleted, of course, for track limits. Yuki Tsunoda out of his car now, going to get weighed, as Daniel Ricciardo is up on the weighbridge with the FIA. And he comes onto the radio just a little bit upset, saying, how much did we miss out by? So he gets told P11, nothing like 0.1 milliseconds, which is what he was out by 0.015. Just oh so close. Was really hoping that he would be able to get out of that session and into Q3, but unfortunately not to be for Daniel Ricciardo, who is trying to pick up his form to hold on to that seat in the V-Carb car. But since they brought those new upgrades, they still need to be getting to the bottom of them, as the Red Bulls are all fickling over Verstappen's car a little bit just to get it ready to go out once again in the next session. Just looking at the difference from Verstappen to his closest rival, Carlos Sainz, in every sector, he is close on 0.2 up in every single sector. We're watching at the moment all of the gravel being swept and blown away from the edge of the curbs. Certainly the air blower working a little bit better than the person with the broom. As we're looking at some analysis from Aston Martin, who've been complaining about the cars bouncing and understeer into turn 4. Just looking at that moment, it's turn 4 for Stroll. You just see how much understeer he has, rather, and he's just everywhere, not able to get the car onto the apex, which will be causing him to bleed lap time. Oh, just as we're having a massive outwash and getting pushed so wide into turn 7, almost getting pushed onto the gravel because the car just will not steer. Looking at pretty much the exact same thing, copy and paste for Fernando Alonso. Alonso having said on the radio he nearly crashed a couple of times, watching a replay as well from Esteban Ocon, who got so close to the gravel into turn 10. So a lot of cars struggling with their balance around the circuit, a circuit where the balance is so important because of the nature of this track. It's also going to be a circuit that is quite difficult on the tyres tomorrow in the race. Carlos Sainz looking at his car, getting ready for the final quali session now. Who will top the timing board? Verstappen taking an early lead here in qualifying, just pushing really hard in that Q2 session, almost half a second, or he was over half a second up on the rest of the field. But what can he do now in this final session when it really all matters? Alonso waving to the fans out here in Austria as we're seeing the camping grounds. So many people making the trek out here to Austria to come and watch this incredible sport in a fantastic venue in Austria. Just so many people having come out here to camp. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer than it is out here in South Africa, but it is looking so beautiful out there in the Austrian Alps. Looking at Oscar Piastri at the moment, he's had some great form here this weekend, getting that position away from Lando Norris on lap 5. Just a daring overtake on the outside into turn 6. But that is exactly what we want to see from this young driver, taking the risks, knowing where you have the pace, and just saying, stuff it. It might be my teammates, but I know I can do it yet. As we're now waiting for the green flag once again for Q3. This session is going to tell us who will be starting on the front line of the grid for tomorrow's race. Lindiwe saying, I don't think Ricciardo will be around for the second half of the season. It would be a shame. Well, I think with his current pace, if he can continue to deliver, then he should be fine. He's ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who they are definitely keeping. As Lindiwe says, Ocon is rarely giving it to Alpine. Gasly has to step it up. I certainly agree with you there. Stefan Edmund saying, hello, thank you very much for joining us, Stefan. Saying that it's also very hot in Germany, 30 degrees Celsius. I think we'd prefer that here in South Africa now. Yeah, it's probably below 16 here. As John Hen just says, let's go, Carlos. So the green flag is now being shown. We've got Hulkenberg and Ocon out on circuit. Verstappen still waiting in his grid box. Lando Norris now also leaving his box. Lindy, we're just saying hello, and it's been a long time since you've heard from me. Yes, it has been quite a while. Life's been very, very busy, but always happy to be bringing you some Formula One coverage this weekend. Lindy, we're also just saying, Helmut Marko has mentioned that Racing Bulls, or VCARB as they prefer to be called, are a junior team, and he has made this position pretty clear. I think Yuki Tsunoda should be able to stay there. I mean, I really want Liam Lawson to make his way into Formula One, but it's so difficult with seats in the moment. We've got so many competitive drivers, and I think that's always the issue in Formula One. We need more teams to accommodate the phenomenal drivers that we have available to us. So 9 minutes and 30 seconds as the clock ticks down. Lewis Hamilton leaving his grid box. Oh, taking some of the equipment with him. That's not gone well. Hopefully he hasn't damaged his car. He's stopped for the Mercedes engineers to check briefly. They did and sent him on his way. Stefan saying, are you guys doing the Cricket World Cup? I don't know if we are on one of our main channels. I will check for you. But we're certainly watching it at the moment. Desperate for South Africa to get their first World Cricket Cup. Verstappen just getting out of the way for one of the drivers on a hot lap as he now ramps up to start his first hot lap of the Q3 session with 8 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. He's going to get a good slipstream now from Hulkenberg as Hulkenberg goes fastest with a 105.9 or 160. Ocon goes fastest with a 105.9 as Verstappen now comes through turn 1 and approaching turn 2. 16.310 is his first sector time. Which gets beaten by half a tenth from Lando Norris. So close between Verstappen and Norris. Verstappen, though, quicker in the middle and third sector. What can he do now? Coming up the hill. And now is where he start dropping it down from turn 6 onwards. Getting also close to the gravel there through 7 and 8. My favorite 2 corners on the circuit. And then the really difficult downhill of 9 and 10. Little bit of dust coming off the car. Now through 10. Neat through there. DRS opens up. Where can he put himself? Fastest with a 104.426. Lando Norris now across the line. 0.3 down. Not able to match Verstappen's lap times. Leclerc now is next up. He crosses the line only in third place. 105.044. As Lewis Hamilton comes through the middle sector, 45.5. Race control had noted an unsafe release for Hamilton. Russell putting in a personal best in the first sector and second sector. Now, a little bit twitchy for Hamilton as he comes through 10. Not what you want in that really tricky downhill braking zone. He only puts in the lap time good enough for 5th place right now. 0.6 seconds down on Verstappen's time. Russell now next across the line. He has a lap time good enough for 3rd place, 104.954. One of only 3 drivers in that 104. As Verstappen now comes into the pits. Verstappen cannot be matched or beaten here so far this weekend. Verstappen now a second faster than his teammate Sergio Perez. The teammate who has been given a contract extension for 2 more years is a full second slower than his teammate in the exact same car. Be sure to let me know in the comment section what you think of that contract extension from Sergio Perez. I'm certainly a little bit confused about why they would decide to go with the conservative option. Chennai saying that they're watching both the cricket and the Formula One. F1 stewards saying that the investigation for Hamilton for an unsafe release will be investigated after the session. as Hamilton gets pushed back into his pits. Tyres now coming off. Small wing adjustment for Hamilton as well, just wanting to get that car into the window that allows him to extract as much pace as possible. I'm still very, very disappointed to see the likes of Sergio Perez all the way down in P8, as opposed to his teammate Max Verstappen, a full second ahead of him in P1. Watching on with Oscar Piastri, he has fallen a little bit further behind in this session, now not able to match the lap times of the top three right now. We're starting to see his experience now in races has stepped up quite a bit in his second year in Formula One, but he still needs to work on his qualifying pace. Piastri also close to matching the lap time of Charles Leclerc, 0.004 seconds slower, 4 milliseconds. Chello is saying, I wonder why we're always talking about comparing Max to Perez. Well, it's because they're teammates. You're always going to compare people in the same car, especially when one is winning and one is a full second down. You do say that they are not running the same machinery, but I certainly think that they are. They're both running the final or the latest iteration of this Red Bull, but they are struggling with the suspension on this year's car. So not as looking as dominant as they have looked in the past 2 years. But you have to think, of course, they are going to design the car around their number one driver, but they definitely aren't going to be wanting to sabotage their number two driver, who is still needed to bring them crucial points for the Constructors' Championship. And when you've just been re-signed and then have a terrible weekend out in Monaco, have a terrible weekend out in Spain, and now don't have anything really to show in Austria, it is a little bit of a red flag for me. All of the drivers now on their final outlap with 1 minute and 40 seconds left to go of this Q3 session. Chennai is saying, where can someone tell me where Perez lacks? Well, he's certainly a good driver. You cannot take that away from him. He is a phenomenal driver out on circuit, extremely experienced with multiple years in Formula One, as we're seeing Verstappen and Piastri now starting their final push laps. Verstappen up on his first sector, fighting with the car though a little bit as he exits through turn 3. Where can Piastri go? Will he be able to match his teammate's pace here now? 0.1 down on Verstappen in that first sector is Piastri. Sainz 0.075 down on Verstappen in the first sector as well. Verstappen improving, but not a personal best. As Verstappen now comes down the final 2 corners to cross the start-finish line and goes ever so slightly faster, 0.1 faster, with a 104.314. Will anyone down the field be able to match the likes of Max Verstappen? Carlos Sainz doing personal best. He moves up into P4. Where does Norris go? Norris goes into P2, but where can Piastri put himself? He steals that second place away from his teammate with a 104.746. As now we're waiting for Lando Norris to put in his final lap time, having to take a double stab at turn 9. Now through turn 10, DRS open, crosses the line, and he steals second place back again at the end from his teammates. And we have a Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri front row. But can the likes of Leclerc or Hamilton change that up? Ooh, as Leclerc goes deep into the grass, just flying all over the place there, bouncing quite a bit. That was going to be a very uncomfortable ride for him. As now Hamilton finishing up his lap time. Where can he go? Can he improve? He does, up into 5th place, ahead of his teammate. But his teammate will have a reply in the next few seconds. Russell opens up his DRS, crosses the line, and he goes up into 4th, ahead of Sainz and ahead of his teammate. Brilliant for George Russell, who is the final driver to finish up his lap time here today. So our grid order for tomorrow's race is Verstappen in 1st, Norris in 2nd, Piastri 3rd, Russell 4th, Sainz in 5th, Hamilton in 6th, Leclerc in 7th, Perez in 8th, Hülkenberg in 9th, and Ocon in 10th. As we get Piastri's lap time being deleted, he then drops down to P7, unfortunately. So Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Piastri, Perez, Hülkenberg, and Ocon in the top 10. Then to finish off our grid, we have Ricciardo in 11th, 12th Magnussen, 13th is Gasly, Tsunoda in 14th, Alonso in 15th, Albon 16th, Stroll 17th, Bottas 18th, Sargent 19th, and Zhou Guanyu finishing up the grid in 20th place. A really interesting qualifying session that we had here today. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. But just to go over once again, our top 3, Verstappen in 1st, 2nd is Norris, and Russell in 3rd position. Disappointing that we did not get Piastri on that 2nd row, but unfortunately his lap time getting deleted for track limits. He'll be starting down in 7th. Lindy, we're saying thanks for the commentary. Till tomorrow, certainly we will catch you for tomorrow's race here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to join us then. Once again, thank you very much for joining us here today. Be sure to check out our channel sponsors linked in the description below. They are, of course, the global leader in cybersecurity, who you can go and check out linked down there. BITDEFENDER, who also sponsor Ferrari. So if you're a Ferrari fan, go and check out BITDEFENDER. Thank you very much, though, for joining me here today. I've been Reese on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.
Hello and welcome. My name is Reese, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. Forever Sports is proudly supported by BITDEFENDER, one of the global leaders in cybersecurity. Stay safe with the most consistently top-rated antivirus of the last 10 years and counting. To protect yourself from cyber attacks, protect your browsing and personal information, and so much more, get BITDEFENDER. With BITDEFENDER's premium VPN, digital privacy and freedom is as easy as flicking on a light switch. Bank, stream, and download without exposing a single byte of personal information. Unblock your favorite streaming sites and get access to content that you want to watch on up to 10 devices today. Effective, invisible, and amazingly affordable. Use the link in the description to get started.
Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. You are joined by me, Reese, for today's Austrian Grand Prix. we're waiting for the credits to get rolling here for the start of this race. As we're watching those getting underway now, we've had the national anthem here in Austria with Hans Zimmer rolling the sound there, just playing on his electric guitar. Really an interesting one there. I did not have that on my I did not have that on my Formula One bingo for today, but Hans Zimmer was joining us there, as we do now have sound back. Thank you very much for letting me know in the chat for that. But we are looking at the stats of the circuit here for the Austrian Grand Prix. This is round, I think it is round 12 of the 2024 season. Round 11, sorry, of the 2024 season here in Spielberg, Austria, at the Red Bull Ring. Of course, this being home of the Red Bull team. Jason Plays just asking what everyone's predictions are for this race. As we look at the track distances, it's 4.3 kilometers with 71 race laps around the circuit here today. Top speed being 338 kilometers an hour with 10 turns and an elevation of 63 meters. A massive climb is turn 1 and then up until turn 2 and 3, and then you work your way back down from there onwards. Looking at the compounds for this race weekend, we have the softest of the Pirelli range. Once again, the C5, 4 and 3 compounds being used here in Austria. We're expecting a 2-stopper out here in Austria with a really hot weekend that we've been experiencing out here at this incredible venue where we go racing. To go over our grid one more time, Zhou Guanyu starting from the pit lane here today with Logan Sargent at the back of the grid in 19th, Valtteri Bottas 18th, Lance Stroll in 17th. Starting alongside him, Alex Albon then will be starting in 16th place, with Fernando Alonso not having the greatest of qualifying sessions in 15th. Yuki Tsunoda 14th, with Pierre Gasly starting 13th alongside him. That is Yuki Tsunoda's best qualifying around the circuit. Kevin Magnussen starting from 12th. Daniel Ricciardo starting from 11th. He was quite happy with that yesterday. Esteban Ocon starting from 10th. Nico Hulkenberg 9th place alongside him. Sergio Perez, another bad qualifying session for him, starting in 8th. Oscar Piastri dropping down the order due to his lap time being deleted, starting in 7th. Charles Leclerc in 6th. Lewis Hamilton alongside him. That's going to be an interesting start for those two. Carlos Sainz then in 4th. In the lead, Ferrari with George Russell in 3rd. Alongside him, Lando Norris then on the front row with Max Verstappen starting in that number 1 spot once again, where he quite enjoys being in Formula One. People giving their predictions in the comment section. TC saying good afternoon. JP saying Max, Norris and Sainz. TC saying Max and Sainz definitely on the podium. JP saying it's going to be interesting to see how these Mercedes do in a full race. They seem to have picked up the pace, but what can they do over a full race distance? They seem to be okay in that sprint race, which they did early on this weekend, but that was only 21 laps or so, if I remember correctly. But this is where it really matters. This is where all of the points are up for grabs. It is a Sunday, as Jason React says. Solid prediction, JP. And I agree with Max, but not Sainz. Well, we'll certainly have to wait and see. Sainz did struggle a little bit yesterday with his tyre degradation. We'll have to wait and see what people decide to take in terms of tyres for the start of this race. And it looks like a bunch of mediums for me, to be honest, on our graphics, but we'll have to wait and see whether that is correct. Max looking super focused ahead of the start of this race. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And be sure to check out our channel partner, BITDEFENDER, linked down in the description below for all of your cybersecurity needs. Check out the global leader in cybersecurity, BITDEFENDER. We're getting ready for the formation lap now to get underway. All of the personnel clearing off of the grid. TC giving their prediction, saying Max will certainly run away. It is a race for second place once again. Well, we'll have to wait and see whether that is going to play out as it did during the sprint race, or whether the Red Bull struggles a little bit more with their degradation today. It is a little bit more interesting in terms of the strategy because there are no two teams in the top three. It is all single constructors with Red Bull, with Max, McLaren with, of course, Norris, and Mercedes with George Russell, and then we have the Ferrari of Sainz. But it means that they can't play the strategy game to really force another team into a pit stop, especially at least Red Bull with Sergio Perez all the way down in 8th and McLaren with Piastri down in 7th. We now do have all of the cars leaving the grid going up towards turn 3. JP saying, you never know what Russell might do. He could rear end Max. Well, it is a really tricky turn 1 at the circuit. We've seen accidents here before. It was really clean though during the sprint race. The drivers will be hoping for another clean turn 1, but we have seen some big accidents here in the past, and we have seen the race leader being taken out before. We're watching Zhou Guanyu sitting in his grid or in his pit box at the moment, waiting to get released ahead of the start of this race. The Orange Army cheering Max on as he comes past their grandstand here. Lando Norris will also be taking that a little bit John saying, my wife wants Hamilton to win, but I say Max. Thank you for giving your predictions here. Weekend attendance here around this circuit is 302,000 people. Amazing to see how many people have made their way out to this Austrian circuit for some Formula One racing. It is a beautiful weekend out for it. We've had some great weather as now all of the drivers are making their way to their grid spots. Max Verstappen just slowly backing them up so that he doesn't have to wait for too long. But there is a bit of a gap forming behind Sergio Perez, but now Hulkenberg does form up behind him as well. Lindiwe saying, hello everybody. Hello Lindiwe, thank you for joining us once again. As the drivers are now lining their way up on the grid boxes. Oh. George Russell parked in third now. Max pointed towards that inside line already, so we know exactly what he plans to do. George Russell also pointing slightly inwards, going very defensive off the start as now the last car is making their way towards their grid. Zhou Guanyu starting from the pit lane, of course, in 20th. Logan Sargent down in 19th now, making his way towards that spot. Hopefully we don't get another aborted start like we had yesterday, but now we have the medical car waiting for the green flag, which is now being waved. Lights now sweeping towards 5, 4, 5 lights now shown. Very long out now, and away we go. Looking like a good start from Lando Norris. Will he be able to cover the inside from Verstappen? No, he doesn't. Verstappen with another brilliant start. George Russell trying to go on the outside, but not able to go around Lando Norris with a really good start. Carlos Sainz fighting it out with Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton on the inside at the moment. Now we have George Russell trying to go around the outside of Lando Norris. Will he be able to have the momentum? Lando Norris defending wide, pushing George Russell towards the curb. As Lewis Hamilton gets around, Carlos Sainz steals 4th place. Oscar Piastri now passing Sergio Perez as we go towards turn 5. As now we have Verstappen, Norris, Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Perez, Leclerc, and Piastri. Piastri going into the gravel a little bit there. Losing that place to Leclerc, unfortunately, as we now have Hulkenberg fighting it out with Esteban Ocon for 9th place. What a very, very dramatic first lap here in Austria. As we're watching Esteban Ocon getting up to 8th and Leclerc falling down the order. Box damage for Charles. So he will be out of this race, unfortunately. Looks like it might be front wing damage. That could also be floor damage for him if he has front wing damage. As we're looking at Yuki Tsunoda taking a move on the old fox of Fernando Alonso. Unfortunately, just struggling with the pace out here in Austria. DRS now enabled new front wing for Charles Leclerc. As we have Hamilton chasing down his teammate Russell for 3rd place now, the final podium position out here in Austria. Tries to go around the outside. George Russell defends to the inside very well, though. Russell still under pressure from Hamilton as they come through turn 6. Oh, so close. Hamilton looking like he has much more pace as Hülkenberg does the switch with Ocon for 8th. Piastri still fighting with Perez. Norris 1.1 seconds apart right now. Not necessarily running away from it as Verstappen yet. Lindiwe is saying well done to the Haas for getting into the top 10. Both Haas now in the top 10 as Hamilton all over the back now of George Russell, really racing it out, coming down the second straight as they approach turn 2 and 3. Hamilton all over the back. Will he go down the inside? Yes, he does. Looks all too easy for the all too experienced racing driver of Hamilton, and he is now into those podium positions of 3rd. But George Russell now has the DRS. Will he be able to come back? He's rarely come back on the inside and has taken that position away from Lewis Hamilton back into P3. But while the two Mercedes are scrapping it out, they're being reeled in by Carlos Sainz once again. And Sergio Perez. Jason reacts saying Lewis to P3. Norris 1.8 off the back of Verstappen now. The battle for first slowly falling out of his grasp. Verstappen 7/10 quicker than Lando Norris on that previous lap. As Russell still defending hard from Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, though, further back off of him this lap. Will he play it a little bit smarter and just attack him after the second DRS zone rather than allowing Russell to get that DRS? But he still looks too far back on this lap to fight for that position. George Russell just having the pace on Hamilton at the moment. Hamilton maybe just heating up his tyres a little bit too much, needing to cool them off and recharge his battery to make another attack. TC saying that they feel sorry for Charles. Charles currently in 19th place. I don't know what happened to Sargent. Even with a pit stop, Leclerc is still ahead of Logan Sargent. As we see Perez now coming up to the back of Carlos Sainz. Sainz also within DRS range to Hamilton. We're waiting for the replay to see what happened to Charles Leclerc at the start. But unfortunately, he is running out of sync. 23 seconds down on the rest of the grid. Hamilton still all over the back of Russell, half a second. It's a really short lap. We're already on lap 5 of 71 here in Austria. As first place seems to be pretty stable at the moment with Max Verstappen 2.5 seconds away from Lando Norris. As we rewatch now the race start, watching Charles Leclerc. Leclerc gets a good getaway, defends hard from Piastri, defends hard from Perez. What happens in the first corner though? I think he just gets squeezed between Perez and Piastri, unfortunately, and just breaks the front edge of his left side of the wing. So this is Piastri that takes it out. Yeah, unfortunately, Piastri takes out his front wing. That is what happened to Charles Leclerc at the beginning of this race. Still a clean race as Hamilton seems to be falling back. Hamilton seems to have issues here. As Hamilton gets passed now by Carlos Sainz. Hamilton with DRS still falling back from Carlos Sainz here. Does he possibly have an issue or just struggling with pace right now? So watching with Oscar Piastri, what caused him to fall back, he did get ushered a little bit wide by Perez into turn 5. Unfortunately, as you can see, Leclerc's wing as they come through that second part of the lap on the first lap of the race. FIA steward saying Hamilton Sainz turn 1, leaving the track and gaining an advantage. No further action, as watching Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton now fighting it out. I think that Lewis Hamilton just fell a little bit too far out of range of Russell and is now struggling a little bit as he is falling a little bit off the back of Carlos Sainz now. As now Hamilton gets a good exit from turn 2. And now through the second DRS zone, will he be able to get around Carlos Sainz on the outside? Trying hard to do it, locking up his brakes slightly. Oh, so close now as they approach turn 4. Piastri now fighting it out with Sergio Perez towards turn 4. Will he go round the outside? Yes, he does. Brilliant move, doing what he did to his teammates once again. Brilliant move from Oscar Piastri. Loves to go the long way round into turn 6, making that move stick once again on another driver. Oh, so brave and beautiful moves. Really enjoying watching Oscar Piastri this season and in this competitive McLaren car. It is just so exciting to see what he's going to do. Now he has Hamilton up the road to chase down. Can Piastri get up towards the podium places here today? Hamilton still chasing down Carlos Sainz right now. This is allowing Russell to run away a little bit. 2.2 seconds is the gap from Sainz to Russell now. Hamilton 0.2 within the range of Carlos Sainz. DRS open now for him. Will he be able to make the move stick towards turn 5? Late on the brake for Hamilton. Closes down the gap a little bit, but not close enough. 0.2 seconds still is the gap from Hamilton to Sainz. As Perez still chasing down Piastri, wanting to get that position back, but that McLaren looking a lot more stable at this point of the race than the Red Bull. Watching the gap though from Verstappen to Norris open up once again. 3.3 seconds is that gap right now. Russell 2.5 seconds off of Norris. Sainz 2.5 seconds off of Russell. As Piastri is closing the gap now, 1.7 to Hamilton, was a little bit bigger than that. Sainz still trying to chase down Russell, but Hamilton half a second off the back of Sainz now, looking like he's dropping back a little bit more. DC is saying the cars are so closely matched, once they overtake someone, the car comes back with the DRS. It certainly is looking that way here. The cars are really closely matched, especially at the front of the grid. Times looking really close still between all of the drivers. Leclerc all the way down to 19th after damaging his wing on the first lap. He is 16 seconds off the back of Zhou now, making time up on him on those hard tyres, but not making up enough. Unfortunately, he is going to be running out of sync by the looks of it for the remainder of this race. We're hoping at least that for Leclerc that there could be a safety car or something, because that might mix things up for him and allow him to get back into the order. But without that, it looks like his race is pretty much one and done, and he's doing a test session here in Austria. We are on lap 10 of 71 out here in Austria. Now we have Lewis Hamilton chasing down Carlos Sainz for 4th place. Sainz trying to chase down Russell, but that gap has opened up to 2.5 seconds. Now, Lando Norris in 2nd place is falling back from the 1st place, Max Verstappen, at a rate of speed. 4.2 seconds now is the gap between those two drivers. Just going to jump on board quickly with Lando Norris to see how he is doing out on circuit. See how his tyres are doing. He's now coming past the start-finish straight. Just being told there's a big tailwind at the moment, so that is possibly helping him in the straights, but will also be affecting them in certain corners as well. Coming through turn 2 now. Ooh, big corrections as he comes through there, fighting the wheel, not looking as stable as he'd like to. As he comes towards turn 4, another really difficult braking zone. Smooth on the steering application though, so looking a lot more stable through there. Turn 6, looking very, very stable now. As we return to the main feed to see what else is happening in this race. We're watching Esteban Ocon out on circle. We have Pierre Gasly now coming behind him. His teammate will be wanting to get that position away. Gasly, of course, with the contract extension for the Alpine team in the future, and Esteban Ocon not getting his contract renewed, and he's driving with a bit of a vengeance at the moment out on circuit. As we have drivers jumping into the pits now, Hulkenberg and Alonso. Ricciardo's also come into the pits by the looks of things, as has Magnussen. As Deg clearly seems to be quite high around the circuit. It's quite surprising to see them come in on lap 12 of a 71 lap race for their first set of tyres after being on those mediums, which you would have expected to be able to at least do 20 something laps. As Alonso comes onto the mediums, 2.4 second stop for him. As the two Hasses, one comes out ahead of the other, so well done in the pits not to lose too much time. Can they behave themselves though, as one has, of course, fresher tyres. Magnussen on Hulkenberg, both of them lock up into turn 2, but they do stay in the same order. Hulkenberg ahead of Magnussen for the moment. Magnussen trying to respond. Will he try and go around the outside? Yes, he does, and defends off Magnussen on Hulkenberg now. Hulkenberg, of course, with the colder tyres, but he will come back once they warm up a little bit more. How much time, though, did that cost them battling it out? Both in those points positions, of course, when in the net running of the race, once everyone else has made their stops. On board now with George Russell trying to chase down still, or trying to chase down Lando Norris. Watching now Alex Albon also into the pits. Sainz 1.5 seconds off of George Russell now. Will he be able to jump up the order into the podium positions? 1.6 seconds now, falling back slowly. 1.7 now, so Shirley struggling on his tyres. Max Verstappen 5.1 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Lando Norris 5.1. Norris to Russell 3.1 seconds. So still not miles away from each other, but certainly within range of a little mistake or two. Medium current pit window is from lap 16 to 21 is what we expected, but we have had more people jump into the pits earlier than we expected. Leonardo saying Magnussen got an undercut on Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg is not going to like that. He certainly won't. But they're still closely matched for now, and as we're watching Hulkenberg take that position back once again into turn 5. Now watching Leclerc having gotten passed by Albon. Albon having come in for his stop. That looked all too easy. Unfortunately, I wonder if Leclerc has any floor damage on that car, because that would make sense. As Leclerc tries to get past Albon once again, but not able to make that move stick. Leclerc really struggling just all over the road, unfortunately, on old hard tyres by now. Magnussen comes onto the radio now saying, got to manage the tyres, Kevin. Got to manage the tyres, being told by his engineer, saying just me or Nico too, then being told both cars need to save, and then responds, beep that. So certainly not a very light suggestion from his race engineer to him, and he feels that he wants to fight with his teammate. And he looks like he's going to make a lunge, but just holds off from doing that. As TC responds to what happened with Albon and Leclerc, certainly very, very odd to see Leclerc struggling so hard out on circuit. The engineer is right, though, speaking to the Haas drivers, that they do need to look after their tyres in the stint, because these are the tyres that they want to go the longest on in this race. We're only on lap 12 or 13 now. I'm just waiting for the graphics to jump up as we're watching the replay of Alex Albon's overtake on Charles Leclerc into turn 3. Brilliant overtake from him. As we're only on lap 16, rather, of 71, so still a very long way to go on their medium or hard tyres, depending on what they've come into the pits for. Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly still fighting it out, as Gasly now 1.1 seconds behind Ocon. He will be wanting to get that position away from his teammates. 1.1 seconds now is the gap. We're watching them go around the circuit, so closely matched. 1.2 now from Gasly to Ocon. Both of them with a massive point to prove. Not really taking any massive chunks out of Ocon's time is Gasly. He's actually falling slightly back. 1.3 seconds now is the gap. Looking a little bit further up to see if anyone else is a little bit closer. Not really, as Leclerc is now told box, so he will come into the pits once again for another set of tyres, possibly for a set of mediums. What will they bring him in for? That is a set of mediums now for Charles Leclerc. Jack Doohan watching from the pits. As we're now watching Charles Leclerc joining back in 20th place. Max Verstappen closing in on him to lap him now. Unfortunately for Charles Leclerc, that is a really disappointing race for him here today in Austria. Verstappen really closing in now on Charles Leclerc. Leclerc trying to get past Logan Sargent. That really tells the tale of his race here today. Leonardo Longhi saying Max randomly seeing a Ferrari ahead of him. It must certainly be a bit of a shocker to see a Ferrari all the way behind Logan Sargent even in a race here. As Leclerc now does get past Logan Sargent, and we get a Haas past a Kick Sauber, past Bottas, or past Joe rather, should I say, up into 14th, is now Magnussen. Hulkenberg up into 13th, Joe all the way down into 15th. And Leclerc once again with a big gap to make up to the rest of the grid. 22.2 seconds to make up to his next competitor on circuit. Just watching Leclerc get past Logan Sargent into the final set of corners on the circuit, 9 and 10. Just made it really easily, but of course he is all the way down in P19 right now. Lando Norris with a big lockup. Norris just being told about the possibility for the next stint. Hard tyre looks like the choice tyre for this next stint, as we're on lap 19 of 71. Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Piastri, Perez, Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, Stroll, and Bottas, all going really long on this current stint of tyres. Could this turn into a 3-stint race? So what could Lando Norris do here? Could he do a medium, hard race here, as we have Esteban Ocon now jumping into the pits? This is in response to the battle with the Haas cars. Will he be able to come out ahead of them? He drops down to 10th, 11th. Bottas is also into the pits here. Slow getaway from him, 2.8 second stop though, as it comes down into 16th. So not necessarily ahead of those Haas. He's coming out behind Alex Albon now. We will wait and see whether that late stop worked out for them. Indeed, we're saying Leclerc has shown the other teams that hard tyre performance is poor. It certainly is looking very bad at the moment. As Zhou Guanyu makes his way through turn 4, he's all the way down in P15, still chasing down his first points of this season in 2024. Verstappen 5.8 seconds ahead of his closest competitor, Lando Norris. Zhou Guanyu just watching what happened to him. Apparently there was a bit of a moment for him. He just, ooh, who did he get nudged by? Alonso nudged him somehow. Yeah, Alonso just went deep onto the brakes, and Tyre tapped his side pod, and there's a big crack in Zhou Guanyu's side pod now. Just hoping to see some more shots of that moment there as Zhou Guanyu slowly falls down the order here now. As we're watching Esteban Ocon now chasing down Zhou Guanyu, dives on the outside, making that work really, really easily. They're not longer saying Haas are back in the points as Hamilton jumps into the pits now. One of the first top runners. Not a bad stop from him, 2.5 seconds. As Perez also jumps out of the pits now. Where will he come out? Going to come out behind the Haas's, so it looks like the Haas's early stops certainly paid off, making the undercut, getting the track position. So if there is a safety car, this could work out very well for those Haas cars. Piastri saying, I think Hamilton crossed the white line on the entry. So possibly just a bit of could be a penalty for Lewis Hamilton. Just watching the replay from Hamilton now. Seeing if he did cross the line. He gets a double snap and a big hand of oversteer. Just does he actually go across? Just does, yeah. Well, it's pretty obvious because his tire slid and he's left a nice big black mark across that white line, and you can see where it was. So Piastri just with really good peripheral vision being able to pick that up while he's coming through that corner at about 250 kilometers an hour, and he's able to see that Lewis Hamilton went over the white line while he was going into the pits. So this could be a bit of an appeal to the stewards. He got a penalty yesterday in qualifying for a tiny mistake, going ever so slightly over the white line into turn 6, and that ruined his entire race. As Verstappen is now told box box, as Piastri is up into third place now, but 11 seconds off of his teammate as Verstappen now jumps into the pits. Will this be a good start for the Red Bulls, as Fernando Alonso is given a penalty for that collision with himself and Zhou Guanyu? 2.7 second stop, as Norris also into the pits now, a little bit slower, 2.6 seconds. I say a little bit slower, but it looked faster. Oh, it looked slow, it was faster. Where will Lando Norris come out? Will he come out ahead of the back marker Albon, or Sargent, rather Sargent that is? Yes, he does, but he'll get a nice little slipstream, and hopefully Sargent will get out of the way with ease. Yes, he does. And Verstappen is now 6.3 seconds ahead of Norris. Verstappen with a 3.1 seconds gap to Piastri now, 2.3 seconds it drops to now. Can Lando Norris find some more pace than Verstappen on the hard compound tyres and be able to take the race back to McLaren once again? 6.8 seconds is that gap. Looking at the replay of Max Verstappen's release, was that an unsafe pit release? Well, it was very, very close. So we'll have to wait and see if that does get looked into. Lewis Hamilton receives a penalty for that crossing the line on the pit entry. So Piastri certainly made the right call there. And that is going to allow Piastri to come a little bit more into this race, that is for sure. Piastri now being told by McLaren, box, box. So Lewis Hamilton now with that 5-second penalty as Piastri comes into the pits, hopefully staying away from that white line that he called out for Lewis Hamilton having done. Into the pits, looking neat and tidy. How long was that in the pits? And that 2.1 second stop for him. The unsafe release for Max Verstappen has been noted from race control, as Norris now 6.7 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Hamilton being told that he has a 5-second time penalty, just saying, yeah, sorry guys. Unfortunately, he knew that he did have that slide there and that he may have gone over the line. Very unfortunate, but just having happened. Norris still 6.7 seconds, and that incident for Verstappen and Norris now being under investigation. That will be up to the discretion of the stewards. Was a very, very close moment there from Verstappen to the McLaren. Watching now with Fernando Alonso, who also has a 10-second time penalty for that accident that he caused with Zhou Guanyu. He is up in P11 right now, trying to get past Daniel Ricciardo for that final points position, but he will of course fall further down the order with that 10-second time penalty. Hamilton coming onto the radio now, being told there is everything to play here by Toto Wolff on the radio. as Perez now battling it out with Nico Hulkenberg going down the inside into turn 5. As Fernando Alonso is still chasing down Daniel Ricciardo for the final points position. 0.7 seconds as Alonso is on the mediums, Ricciardo on the hards. Just watching the replay of that accident from Fernando Alonso, the accident that caused him to be penalized 10 seconds for causing that accident. He locked up rather massively, unfortunately for himself, and did make contact with the side of Zhou Guanyu's car. Zhou Guanyu now falling all the way back to 18th position. .6 seconds now from Alonso to Daniel Ricciardo. But the Alpines also now coming up from behind from Alonso. .9 seconds from Norris to Verstappen, still waiting for the outcome of that incident between the two of them. Max Verstappen, possible unsafe release. It was very, very marginal from Red Bull, as we're hearing from the race leader now. As it seems like there might be a possible gearbox issue with an upshift issue. Being told when he needs to upshift before the end of the straight. Possibly having an issue with 8th place. Might be himself also lifting and coasting. So don't know what the issue is there for the race leader right now. 7 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. So clearly not an issue that is affecting him too badly. Might be a power unit issue. We have seen that Verstappen is going through a ton of power units this season. He's already on his 5th one as Leclerc now onto the radio. As he's being told they're projected to come into the points before the end of the race. Very interesting prediction from the Ferrari pit wall. Been a difficult race for him here today, having made contact with Oscar Piastri in the first lap of the race. And that unfortunately damaged his front wing, meaning he had to come into the pits and has been running very out of sync for the entirety of the race. Verstappen now saying still very gusty out here as Gasly looks to make a move on his teammate. The wind is currently 12.2 kilometers an hour. It's a tailwind down towards turn 2, but it is a crosswind for the majority of the rest of the circuit then. .1 seconds now from Verstappen to Norris, 3.8 seconds from Russell to Norris. Now watching Sainz also still trying to chase down that final podium position as the FIA stewards have noted that Sergio Perez is now under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. A lot of investigations here today. Still waiting to hear the outcome of that investigation into the Max Verstappen, Lando Norris unsafe release, as Gasly's still desperate to get past his teammate. He has the DRS open again, but so does his teammate. So they're way too evenly matched, unfortunately. Gasly still chasing down his teammate Esteban Ocon for 12th position. 0.4 seconds is his cap to him, but there is a bit of a DRS train that is forming. We're currently on lap 32 of 71. As we're still watching those two Alpines fighting it out, but they're also reeling in Fernando Alonso. Piastri also not having too bad of a race here today, making up one position from the start, 4.4 seconds, as Sergio Perez receives a penalty now, another penalty being handed out, 5-second penalty for him for speeding in the pit lane. Just everyone getting handed out penalties here today, as Gasly, does he get past his teammate? Not just yet. Still desperate to get past him. Gasly still chasing down Ocon. The closest battle currently out on track between Gasly, Ocon and Alonso. Currently chasing down for the final points possession, which is Daniel Ricciardo in 10th. Gasly watching a replay of how close he got to Esteban Ocon. Will we see some contact between these two drivers, or will they continue to race it out cleanly? Another very clean exit for Gasly, but he just doesn't have the pace down the next corner. Really difficult to do at the moment with this DRS train, as Norris sets the fastest lap of the race with 109. CC saying the two pen cars will probably crash into each other today. They're certainly going to get very frustrated with each other here. Gasly comes onto the radio saying he's going to pass Fernando. He's got to pass Fernando faster. We're losing time now. The two Alpines getting frustrated with each other, both battling it out really evenly right now. Ocon desperate to get past Alonso, as we now have Charles Leclerc diving into the pits one more time. This could be his final time of the day. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We do bring you a lot of motorsport content, including the Moto GP. Unfortunately, that was taken down today, but we will try and bring that to you in the future once again. As Lindy was saying, Leclerc is on his third stop. No further action for the Verstappen and Norris unsafe release. As now Leclerc coming out behind Lando Norris. Close to contact between the back marker and Lando Norris. .9 seconds now from Verstappen to Norris. As we now have Esteban Ocon getting past Fernando Alonso. Alonso's tyres looking like they have now fallen off the cliff. Pierre Gasly needs to make quick work of Fernando Alonso as well now. Alonso trying to get past, but Pierre Gasly now making the attack. Gasly also taking a run at his teammate, pushing him wide. He goes over the sausage curbs, and now Pierre Gasly is up into 11th place. Or was that Gasly that got pushed over the curb there? I think it may have been Gasly. Yes, it was Gasly that got pushed over the sausage curb, just getting pushed by his teammates. Alonso now getting told, box, box. There will be some words, I'm sure, under the helmet of Pierre Gasly there. Has Alonso picked up a little bit of damage, possibly? As now Gasly will be chasing down his teammate. 0.8 seconds is the gap. Alonso looking like there is some damage. They're checking down the back of the car, or rather serving his 10-second penalty. That is what they were doing, as he has now had his tyres replaced and he's back out on track. A 14.4 second stop. Just watching this replay from Pierre Gasly in the number 10 car as his teammate gets past Fernando Alonso. He then gets right up to the back of him pretty much immediately. The DRS gets open towards that big run to turn 3 up the hill again. Alonso gets boxed in by Ocon. Then Gasly tries to go around the outside of Ocon, and Ocon just pushes him straight off the track as Gasly comes onto the radio and goes, "What the beep? What was that? Why did he run me off the track?" Certainly not looking like he was very happy with his teammates' actions out on the circuit, and the team will not be happy with that either. Ocon not really driving with the cleanest of intentions here today, as it looks like Yuki Tsunoda is reeling in Alex Albon with a really late lunge. He gets past him now for 13th place. Brilliant little move there for Yuki. Big lockup, but still able to make that move stick. Really, really late on the brakes as we're watching Piastri 1.8 seconds off the back of Hamilton now. Hamilton, of course, still with that 5-second penalty, which he will serve in the next run of pits. Hard onto the brakes now as they come towards turn 3. Just so beautifully smooth through there for Oscar Piastri, chasing down Lewis Hamilton. It is getting slightly darker out here, but still looking set to be dry for the remainder of this race. Ricciardo now into the pits. Where will he come out? DC saying Ocon should reply to his team, "Fire me then." Well, we'll certainly wait and see what happens for him. Oscar Piastri, 1.4 seconds now off the back of Hamilton. Hamilton seeming to struggle on his tyres. McLaren looking like the faster car out on circuit. Piastri really reeling in. Hamilton now within 1.5 seconds. Coming towards the final stint of this race, we're expecting them to come in for their final pit stops in the next 10 laps or so. Hamilton currently on older tyres compared to Piastri. Piastri's gap 1.3 seconds now. Magnussen in the pits, 2.9 second stop. Where will he come back out? He's currently in 15th. Will drop behind Daniel Ricciardo. Verstappen comes onto the radio saying, "I don't know what's happening. The tyres are suddenly really bad, falling off the cliff here." 8 seconds is his gap, 8.1 as he opens it up again. The hard tyre are the most difficult tyre around the circuit. They have been sliding around along the circuit. Not necessarily the best compound. As now we have Lance Stroll fighting it out with Alex Albon, trying to get past him, and he does now get past him into turn 6. As Gasly now past Hülkenberg as Hülkenberg jumps into the pits. Gasly 0.4 seconds down on his teammate. as we have a whole bunch of pit stops now. 2.8 stop from Hulkenberg, waiting for Albon's stop time to come up. As we now get the late move from Gasly on his teammate Esteban Ocon. Will he be able to steal this position away? Esteban Ocon with the better momentum towards turn 4. Now coming back, will Ocon push him wide though towards the gravel? Gasly with much better momentum on the outside. Now coming towards the inside towards turn 7. Much better, and he does take that position away from his teammate. Gasly gets by finally on his teammate Esteban Ocon. It's been what he's been wanting all weekend long, not able to make it happen during the sprint race, but finally being able to make that position stick in the race on Sunday. He is now up at 8th place. Turn 3 incident involving Ocon and Alonso has been noted. The hard tyre window has now opened. Lap 45 to 52 is what we're expecting for them to pit in. As Ocon trying to chase Gasly, now down half a second is that gap. Leonardo Longhi saying, good job, Haas, keeping Kevin ahead of Ricciardo. It certainly was, as they were able to just work that strategically. Just watching what happened with Gasly. Gasly got pushed really wide by his teammates, getting defended by his teammate. Did a bit of a switcheroo, got a better traction run, and just made that move stick beautifully on his teammate. Very, very entertaining to watch. Beautifully smooth from Gasly, and Ocon will be wanting to get that position back, but Gasly, of course, with a point to prove going into the future. That gap still sitting under a second from Ocon to Gasly, though, so I do not think that battle is over. Could continue to fight it out for the remainder of this race. 0.6 seconds, 0.4 seconds, as they're still fighting it out a bit on circuits. Gasly onto the radio saying ciao. Just so spicy from Gasly on the radio. Hamilton still trying to chase down Carlos Sainz. 3.1 seconds is the gap. Piastri still trying to reel in Hamilton, but not able to make that gap fall fast enough. As CC says, Gasly is funny. He certainly is. Norris now turning that wick up a little bit, having eaten out that gap from Verstappen. It was over 8 seconds, now 6.5 seconds. Verstappen coming onto the radio saying he is struggling on these tyres. So certainly looking at right now as Bottas is in the pits, as is Gasly. Oh, slow stop from him. That is not going to work very well. 3-second stop. Race control noting that Alex Albon is being looked at into for failing to follow the race director's instructions for crossing the white line on the pit entry. TC saying Piastri is effectively in 5th. He certainly is. Looking at the oscillations and a piece of bodywork coming off of Esteban Ocon's car, some of the brake ducts. That gets blown, luckily, off of the racing line. So that could cause some issues for Esteban Ocon later in this race. As we're watching Verstappen's gap opening up once again, 6.7 seconds now to Lando Norris. Still the race leader getting past some traffic. That could also be why that gap did fall a little bit, as Esteban Ocon now dives into the pits. Better pit stop for him, 2.2 seconds. Will Gasly come out ahead of him? Yes, he does. Will it be a gap larger than a second, though? 1.8 seconds, 1.9 seconds is the gap now from Ocon to Gasly. Tsunoda running a good race. He was behind his teammate at one point, now up into eighth place. Still, I think, needing to make a pit stop. Leclerc having made it up into 12th now, hoping to go the rest of the race on these tyres. I think the Ferraris are really hoping for a safety car here, just to allow him to get back into track position as Tsunoda dives into the pits now. Verstappen 6.5 seconds fast ahead of Lando Norris as Alex Albon receives a penalty for crossing the pit lane entry. It is a really tricky pit entry around the circuit. Second penalty for that here today. Very difficult entry as it is on a very, very tight right-hander, as now Fernando Alonso has been caught by a plethora of faster cars as Russell gets toward box. Couple back markers mixed in with the leader of Russell. Russell, though, 13.5 seconds off the back of Norris. So Norris and Verstappen on just otherworldly pace here today. George Russell now diving onto the brakes and down to 80 kilometers an hour as he comes into the pits. Good pit stop. 2.3 second stop. Turn 3 incident involving Ocon and Alonso has been reviewed and no further investigation. Gasly now, or Russell rather, rejoins the track on lap 47 of 71. Just watching what happened here with Lance Stroll, and I think this is Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell. George Russell just struggling to get back on the power, and Lance Stroll just going past Russell. Russell being on old tyres and Stroll being on newer tyres. He is entitled to do that though, because you are allowed to unlap yourself if you are quicker than the drivers ahead of you, even if it is a race leader. 6.8 seconds is the gap now from Verstappen to Norris. The Haas's looking to try and chase down Sergio Perez, who still needs to come into the pits, as now the second Ferrari of Carlos Sainz comes into for his final stop. Verstappen being told, I can't hold this much longer, mate, behind, as Verstappen struggling at the moment on his tyres, as Piastri now working hard and gets past Lewis Hamilton on the track through turn 2. Brilliant move for the young driver. Dives now down and gets past Lewis Hamilton and holds on to it through turn 4 and 5. Oscar Piastri just watching this replay of him getting past Lewis Hamilton. Just a brilliant move for him down into turn 3. Hamilton still within DRS range though of Piastri. Could he come back to fight at him once again? Hamilton, though, of course, when he comes into the pits with a 5-second penalty, rather, for crossing the white line on the pit entry. Gasly now up on the back of Charles Leclerc in 11th place. He'll be wanting to clear these drivers quickly to hold out ahead of his teammate. In front of Leclerc, though, is Lando Norris, who is in second place, but has lapped Leclerc. But they are on older tyres right now. Verstappen onto the radio once again. Being told good lap, the gap is up to 7.1. Just being told, though, that they're all looking all right now, not to worry all too much. Verstappen, I think, struggling with two Hasses, really chasing down behind him, and he is trying to hold out ahead of him. The pressure is not to be unlapped by these Hasses. Who would have thought that Verstappen would have been under the pressure from a Haas driver behind? As Gasly chasing down Leclerc now, trying to get that position away from him. Currently on lap 50 of 71. Now 51 of 71, 20 laps left to go. When will the race leaders come in for their final set of pit stops? Really extending these tyres as far as they can. 6.8 seconds is Verstappen's gap to Lando Norris behind. The race leaders struggling on their tyres as Lando Norris goes off the road into turn 3. That will extend the 7-second gap a little bit more to Verstappen. They all are struggling on these hard tyres, as Verstappen says these tyres are beep, man. So really the race leaders are struggling on these hard tyres. As Verstappen has been told now, box with 20 laps left to go. Leclerc also really struggling on his old mediums. What tyres now will the Red Bulls put on? As Verstappen now into the pits. Will Norris respond as well? Yes, he does. Will we get another unsafe pit release? It was a slow stop for the Red Bulls, but they were waiting for the release past the Red Bulls. This will be an advantage for the McLaren. 6.5 second stop for the Red Bull. So they've lost a lot of time to the McLaren. I will quickly go and look at a replay as Verstappen comes onto the radio. Just getting a little bit animated because of that slow stop. Used tyres though now on the Red Bull, new tyres on the McLaren. Let's go back and look at what happened in the pits for Max Verstappen. Just having to wait quite a while for that McLaren to come get past. Just watching what happened in the actual stop though, whether there was a bit of a slow rear or front. Must have been on the rear, yeah, before he got dropped down. So bit of a slow stop, but they should still be fine for now. As we return to the main feed, Leclerc coming out of the pits now. Norris 1.7 seconds off the back of Verstappen. Norris on newer tyres. Norris hunting down Verstappen. It was a slow rear left for the Red Bull. And because it was slow, that of course meant that Norris was within the time that the Red Bulls had to hold Verstappen. And then Verstappen, did he have a big lockup? Yes, he did. A big lockup into turn 4 that caused him to fall even more within the clutches of Lando Norris. So Lando Norris now really reeling in. Verstappen almost a second. So Verstappen was really holding himself out throughout this race, now struggling on these new medium tyres. Norris with brand new tyres, Verstappen with scrub tyres. Almost within a second, this Grand Prix now coming alive in the closing stages. Norris now within DRS range and sets the fastest lap. Norris with a 108.0. Norris out of DRS range once again, but he just crossed he just crossed the threshold though in the right time, as Hamilton now serving his pit penalty. Norris now 0.8 off the back of Verstappen. The fresh tyres going to give him that advantage to be able to attack Max Verstappen. Max has been so calm though, under pressure now, opening that gap up ever so slightly to 0.7. He just needs to be able to manage this. Russell, 11 seconds back. But we now have a race for the front of the order. Verstappen, 0.7 back from, or 0.7 ahead from Russell. Russell, though, with DRS closing him down. Half a second now before turn 1. And Max Verstappen now with some traffic ahead of him. Verstappen now defending from Lando Norris towards turn 3. Will Norris make a lunge? He does make a look, but will Lando Norris now be able to come back towards turn 4? Verstappen still holding out ahead of him, holding out. Will Norris make a late lunge into turn 4? No, he doesn't. Verstappen really placing his car beautifully around the circuit. Norris just saying that Verstappen reacted to his move, that he's not allowed to do that. So now Norris complaining to the stewards. Norris coming onto the radio again, saying he saw me move and he moved. And then Verstappen now with DRS. Lando trying to get Max a penalty. Max, I don't think he will get one for that. That was relatively fair. Verstappen, though, with DRS on this lap because of back markers. This gives him a little bit of breathing space. That will certainly be an advantage. Verstappen now 1.2 seconds ahead of Norris. Norris having lost that DRS from Verstappen. As we watch this replay from Verstappen and Norris. As Jason Diaz saying, wow, McLaren are in their prime right now. They certainly are. On lap 56 of 71, Norris chasing down the race leader. 0.9 seconds from himself to Verstappen. Verstappen, though, still a second ahead. Verstappen on the radio, saying it feels like there's something wrong with the car. That's not what he wants to hear right now. Still a second, though, ahead of Lando Norris. Will Norris have DRS, though, on this next lap as they climb the hill towards turn 3? 0.8 seconds ahead of Norris into that turn. Meanwhile, Perez now ahead of Magnussen. Verstappen still defending from Lando Norris into turn 5. Their tyres now losing that advantage on the McLaren, having those new tyres Andrea Stella just shaking his head on the pit wall. The McLaren 0.8 seconds behind the Red Bull. Verstappen onto the radio again. Just being told setup changes. Just not sounding happy at all. Norris 0.7 behind, but Norris now getting the black and white flags for track limits. If he goes over track limits once again, that could be a penalty for Lando Norris. Looking at another move. Norris fending it off though. Will Norris make a late lunge though? Ooh, so close. Will Norris get the better traction out of the corner to make another lunge on Verstappen towards turn 4? Verstappen fending off that inside line. Norris still too far back now. Verstappen though knowing exactly where he needs to fend it off. Can Verstappen do something special here and continue to lead this race ahead of the McLaren, which seems to have the best pace right now? 0.6 seconds is the gap, ever so slightly closer this time around. Black and white flag once again. Just being reminded to us for Lando Norris. As Adam Norris, Lando's father, watches on. Half a second now between the two of them as they come down towards turn 3. Late lunge for Lando Norris. Late on the brakes though, and he locks up. That could be, he might get told to give that back. As Verstappen goes around the outside and takes that position back once again from Lando Norris. Verstappen comes onto the radio, just saying he overtook him outside the track, which is why he had to give the place back. Norris gave that back relatively quickly there towards turn 5, as he had a big lockup into turn 2. Rarely fended it off late and just locked it up as he tried to turn it in. Went off the circuit, came back on and was still ahead, so he had to give that position back. But it is oh so close now as they come towards turn 1. Half a second between these two drivers. Could we get another late lunge for Lando Norris on this lap? He's done it before. Let's see if he'll do it again. He knows that he can do it. Just holding it out though, this time just reeling Verstappen in once again. 60 of 71. 11 laps remaining of this race. And absolutely nothing between our two race leaders. Norris complaining on the radio saying you can't move after I've moved, as we see someone going into the gravel there. That looked like a Williams just touching the gravel. Track limits noted for Lando Norris. Norris just needing to keep it neat and tidy on circuit. He's closer though, this time coming towards turn 1. Half a second between the two of them. Really, really close. The closest we've seen them. Half a second between Norris and Verstappen. Verstappen knows he is under pressure here. Can he do anything to defend from Lando Norris? He does though dive off and fend into turn 2, or turn 3 rather. But Norris now really all over. It's a traction race towards turn 6. Verstappen defending the inside line. Really fends it off and still holds on to that position from Lando Norris. Just oh so close. Fine margins between these two drivers here today. Lap 61 of 71, Verstappen just holding on. Lando Norris now is under investigation for track limits. He was given the black and white warning flag and has gone off the tracks. So that could mean a penalty for him with 10 laps to go. Lando all over the back of Max Verstappen, trying to get past him, but he could be under investigation and could be at the possibility of getting a penalty for track limits here. Oh, so close though between these two race leaders, half a second, as Lando Norris with a really good exit. Really, really close now to Max Verstappen. Will he make a late lunge? Could he get that inside line? No, not close enough. Unfortunately, 0.2 seconds behind. As Samindi just saying, push Lando. Just such fine margins between these two drivers here. Waiting to see what will happen from this investigation into Norris, because this can affect the outcome of the lead of this race. Max, lots of lift and coast through the final 3 corners. 0.6 seconds between himself and Lando Norris in second. Now through turn 1. Lando Norris closing the gap so quickly. 0.6, 0.5, 0.3. Late lunge once again. Will he make the move stick? And he pushes Max Verstappen once again off the track. Verstappen comes back ahead of him. He does have the right to take that position again. Such an exciting end to the race. Full commitment for Lando Norris. Norris comes onto the radio. Yeah, saying he has to give the position back. What will happen here? Will Verstappen need to give that position back? We'll wait and see what Verstappen decides to do. Still half a second ahead. Verstappen on the radio now, saying he forced me off again. Just saying he keeps dive bombing. That's not how you overtake. Well, it's certainly what Lando Norris is trying to do. Max Verstappen will not give that place up very easily, unfortunately, for Lando Norris. Verstappen so close this time round between himself. They make contact as now Lando Norris has Max Verstappen has a puncture. Yellow flag. Lando Norris has given Max Verstappen a puncture. Verstappen forcing Norris off the racetrack now. Just absolute scenes between these two drivers. Both of them fighting still. Norris also with the puncture now. Verstappen off the track. Verstappen trying to get back to the pits, but really struggling. His wheel is completely off the rim. The lead of this race is in shambles right now. Lando Norris receives a penalty. George Russell is catching the pair of these two though right now. So George Russell may go on to take the lead of this race. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Verstappen now back ahead as George Russell overtakes Max Verstappen to take the lead of this Austrian Grand Prix. Verstappen coming into the pits now, limping home. This is going to be huge amounts of floor damage for the two leaders. 6 laps left of this race. What an end to the Austrian Grand Prix contact between the two leaders. Just absolute scenes. Punctures for both. Verstappen gets put onto a set of soft tyres. He will rejoin in 4th place. 5th place now as he falls behind Verstappen or behind Hamilton. What an end to this Austrian Grand Prix, as now Piastri is fighting it out with Carlos Sainz for 4th place, or for 3rd place rather, for the final position on the podium, trying to go around the outside, and he does make that move stick. Brilliant stuff for Oscar Piastri, taking 2nd place from Carlos Sainz. What a move from Piastri, making that move stick once again. He made it stick on his teammate yesterday, made it stick on Sergio Perez as well, and now made it stick for second place. 2.7 seconds. Can he take the lead of the race from George Russell as now Lando Norris retires from the race? Too much damage on his McLaren, and that is the end for him here in Austria. Virtual safety car. Probably because of all of the as George gets told, you can win this, George, as he says, no beat, guys, on the radio. Piastri has an opportunity to do this now. Just watching what happened between our two race leaders. Norris goes on the outside, hits Verstappen. Lando holds his ground, but then both of those cars have that damage. Max then comes across the track to get out of the way from the faster drivers. As you can see, it was rear to rear tire that contact was. Virtual safety car now ending. As we look what happens between those two good friends, there may be some words had before the end of this race. Verstappen now in fifth on soft tires. And you can see the amount of damage that has caused to that McLaren car. So much floor damage because of that shredded tire, as we watch the moment when George Russell took the lead of the race from Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Piastri, though, what can he do now as we're watching Carlos Sainz getting past the back markers there? Sainz, 0.8 seconds off the back of Piastri. Piastri, 3 seconds to George Russell. Verstappen, though, 10 seconds to make up towards Hamilton. Just everything falling apart in the final stages of this race. What a race it has been. It looked like Max Verstappen was running away with it, but right at the end, it just all fell apart for himself and Lando Norris. Looking like there is a bit of damage on his car because he is falling back from Lewis Hamilton, as now Verstappen gets a 10-second penalty for causing a collision. As Verstappen did seem to be just a bit too desperate there in the end, and just defending a little bit too hard from Lando Norris. Norris, though, unfortunately, the only driver to be out of this race here today. Those two drivers just having a brilliant race, unfortunately ending in agony for the two of them. 3 laps left now, 2.6 seconds, 2.7 seconds. Can Russell lead this race to the end, or will Piastri try and steal it from him in the final stages with 3 laps left to go now? Perez now chasing down Nico Hülkenberg. Mara saying, I thought we were going to have a repeat of Canada, going to see Leclerc climbing up. A Piastri win would sit nicely, though. But it is still 2.4 seconds. He will need to get a little bit closer before the end if he wants to be able to get into that top spot. Fastest lap of the race set by Verstappen now, as he has a 10.5 second gap to Hamilton. Piastri 2.3 seconds now off, 2.1 seconds now off the back of George Russell, 2.0. He's really closing that gap down. He could have his first taste of fighting for a race win here today. What will happen in these closing stages? It is still all to fight for. 1.9 seconds now. Hülkenberg chasing it out with Perez still ahead of him for now in 6th place. 2 seconds from Piastri to Russell, 2.1. Russell opening up that gap once again. A little bit of back markers for Piastri, unfortunately, as our entire podium positions change up here in the final few laps. Lando Norris looking quite dejected there in the McLaren pit. .4 seconds now from Piastri to Russell. Russell pushing as hard as he dare on those hard tyres. Russell trying to get his first win for this season. .3 seconds from Piastri to Russell, as now Russell starts the final lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. Six corners left to go now as he sweeps towards turn 3. A brilliant race though for Daniel Ricciardo, currently sitting in 9th place as Leclerc does the switcheroo with Esteban Ocon, steals 11th place from him. Verstappen 6 seconds off of Hamilton on those soft tyres. Russell though looking comfortable in 1st place when he thought he was only going to be able to finish in 3rd here today. Everything changed. Now he is in 1st, coming through the final couple of corners on this Austrian circuit to take his win, his first win for Mercedes this season. 2.2 seconds from Piastri. He will be able to take this race win here today, being able to manage it oh so well in the closing stages. Through the final corner now he goes to take the race win here in Austria for Mercedes. A brilliant race for him. All changing in the final seconds. Piastri takes 2nd and Carlos Sainz takes 3rd in his Ferrari. What a race it was. Verstappen now coming through the final sector of the circuit. It looked like he was going to take that race win, but unfortunately it all unraveled for him. Perez battling it out with Nico Hülkenberg, locking up on the brakes, trying to seal that position in the middle sector here. All so close between those two. Verstappen does now finish his race 4 seconds back. He does have a 10-second penalty, but he will stay 5th because he has a 26-second gap to Hülkenberg behind him. Perez now, will he be able to take 6th place away from Hülkenberg? But it does not look like he will. A brilliant result for the Haas driver of Hülkenberg here today, stealing 6th position. Perez in 7th, Magnussen 8th, Ricciardo will finish in 9th, Gasly in 10th, Leclerc in 11th, Ocon in 12th, Stroll in 13th, Tsunoda 14th, Albon 15th, Bottas 16th, Zhou Guanyu 17th, Alonso 18th, and Sargent in 19th, as we're looking at another race winner for our 2024 season. It has been George Russell stealing that race win at the final stages of this race, picking up the pieces from Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen still being able to finish the race. Lando Norris, unfortunately, having to retire. What an end to this race, though. Certainly not expected, and very, very messy from the front too. What a race that was. Thank you so much for joining me here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, to make our way through the grid order. Once again, Russell takes the race win in Austria, Piastri in 2nd, Sainz in 3rd, to round up those podium positions. Hamilton 4th, Verstappen 5th, Hülkenberg 6th, Perez 7th, Magnussen 10th, Magnussen 8th, Ricciardo 9th, Gasly 10th, Leclerc 11th, Ocon 12th, Stroll 13th, Tsunoda 14th, Albon 15th, Bottas 16th, Zhou 17th, Alonso 18th, Sargent 19th, and the only retirement is Lando Norris because of that contact that he made with Max Verstappen. What a race that was. Thank you so much once again for joining me here on Forever Motorsports. Thank you to our channel partner, BITDEFENDER. Be sure to go and check them out, linked in the description below. Thank you very much, though. I have been Reese here on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.
Now, did you